Welcome back to video number 2 for property development process. Guys, before we continue with the video, I keep forgetting this. If you guys like the video, I would really appreciate if you could just subscribe to the channel. It just helps, and at least I know there are people who like what I'm creating. Otherwise, I'm just creating all this stuff and for the void. So if you could just like the channel, if you like the video, that'll be really great and I'll really appreciate it. So let's continue with video number 2 of property development process. As discussed earlier, the next stage in the process in the old model of property development is consultants. But hang on, there's a lot of stuff involved with understanding finance and being able to purchase the development site. So let me explain you a few things before you even get to the consultants. You've got to first be able to sort out your finances. And a part of sorting out your finances, that's why we do a financial feasibility analysis, because a good application like the property development system financial feasibility application, which is in version 1.2 at the moment, version 1.0 at the moment, will give you a full cash flow of what you would require upfront, what would you require until the building permit, what would you require once the construction start, and all the gaps of equity that you would require to inject into the project before you actually go out and start looking for it. So if you've done your feasibility right, you should know what the kind of money that you need to put up front and also the kind of money that you should borrow. The second stage that comes in is what you can borrow, which is basically development finance. And development finance works in different stages. There are different kinds of loans. There are so many lenders in the market. And you need to have a good understanding of what are these lenders looking for, the kind of loan that you can get, and it keeps changing. I mean, maybe the first stage is that you want to just settle on the block, and then you want to go and get plans and permits, and then you want to get a construction loan, and then after the construction's over, you want to refinance it and hold a couple of apartments or hold a townhouse that you've just developed. Maybe you've sold 4 of them and you've held 2, and all that has to be refinanced so that you've got, and this whole understanding is required because before you get in, you already know what's going to happen when you reach the construction stage and what's going to happen when you reach the holding, if you're planning to hold the development that you are developing. So all these things are very important, and there's an extensive finance checklist. There are so many things that will come in during that time. So having a good understanding of development finance is very, very important. When it comes to valuations, you also need to understand why getting a favorable valuation is important, different types of valuations, how to get a favorable valuation, understanding valuation methods, and what does the valuer look for, and all these valuations that you can get via, they're called desktop valuations that you can get via different resources. Some of them are free, some of them you got to pay for, so that you know what you're dealing with before a valuer actually goes in to get a valuation for you. And then the second stage is actually you're going to purchase the development side. Why are you going to do that in your name? I would suggest you don't do that in your name, but you got to go and get the right advice from your accountant. Make sure that you get a good understanding of what's involved and also what your long-term plan is after the development is complete. If you don't know what your long-term plan is after the development is complete, you might end up with a structure that will not help you to save tax or help you against asset protection, and help you with asset protection. So these are the things that you got to remember, and for that I would suggest that you go and talk to your accountant and make sure that you've got asset protection built into it and tax purposes What are you going to do with the tax liability after that happens? So there are different strategies that come into play. If there are more than one person involved in the development with you, the structure would be different. So all these things come in, and these are specific advice that you've got to go and get from your accountant for your specific project. So make sure you spend that time, and you spend that you got to go get that advice from the accountant. Sometimes most of the accountants won't charge you anything for this. Some might and some may not. So I know for sure that my accountant doesn't. All I have to do is discuss with him over the phone, and then he tells me, okay, that's what you're doing. I think that's the best structure to do it, and then I ask him to, let's go ahead and set up the structure. So that's how it works. Also, negotiations is a very big part of when you're actually purchasing the site. It could be negotiating the price, it could be negotiating the terms, it could be negotiating the time that you require for settlement, which is basically part of the terms and special terms and conditions. So you got to prepare for those negotiations. You got to develop your response to all different scenarios, that if you say X and he or she says Y, what is your response going to be? A and B, so on. And you got to have an understanding of how to negotiate in a hot market, because in a hot market it actually becomes really difficult, and agents don't really care whether or not you want it or you don't want it, because they know that somebody else will come in and they will flog it off to somebody else, and you don't want to do that. So make sure that you understand this negotiation process that occurs every time you are purchasing a property. And I've got a system where I do that, and I put these things in order. So that's also a part of the property development course. So your consultants, which is your stage number 3, actually kick in when you are there to obtain permits. Now you could be obtaining permits for just a planning permit, or DA, which is development approval. In Victoria they call it planning permit. Everywhere else they call it DA, which is the development approval. So that's when you need consultants, and there are different consultants. Architect is required all the way through, but different consultants start becoming important at different stages of this. So if you're going for after planning, you'll be moving into the building permit or the building approval, or BA stage, and you would need different other consultants who can come and help you with the permits. So you got to determine the design and product fit. Now product fit again would depend upon what due diligence you did in that area and how you found that project. So you should already have that by the time you get here, and that's why they come in these steps, because you don't conduct the proper steps in any of these stages, you will find difficulty further down the track. So design and product fit, environmentally sustainable design, and cost-effective design. These are the things come in. And to be able to get a cost-effective design, what I usually do is I work with a builder, and I get my builder to actually glance over these things so that he can tell me where the cost of construction can be saved. Then you've got all the consultants, all kinds of reports, and all kinds of permits that kick in, that are required for, say for example, there's so many different reports that are required for the consultants to commence their work. So for example, a set out survey on the site is very important and very basic. Without that, the architect can't really start designing. So make sure that all these things, you know about all these things. And obtaining permits, then you know that, okay, I would need to go for the DA, and for DA I need 1, 2, 3, and 4 consultants, and for BA I need maybe 7 or 8 consultants who would come in and give you drawings for specific parts of your development. So if you want to understand more about property development, make sure you download the free property development blueprint from my website. If you visit www.propertydevelopmentsystem.com.au, click on free blueprint, and you can click on this and access the blueprint, and it is 100% free. I'll see you next time in part 3.